Latin. People don't look at these things. They don't study these things. Look at the word conscience, which I've mentioned before in this interview. Conscience means to truly know the difference between right and wrong. Conscience is knowledge. People think conscience is behavior. Conscience isn't action. Conscience isn't thought. Conscience is knowledge. It means that you definitively know the difference between what is right and what is wrong, between behavior that is a right because it doesn't initiate harm to other sentient beings versus behavior that is morally wrong because it does initiate harm to other sentient beings. This is what conscience is. And then break it down from its constituent etymological root words. Con in Latin, we've already seen when breaking down conspiracy or to conspire, it means with or together. And then the word science, conscience, science. You spell it out, it's the word science after the prefix con. Science comes from the Latin verb scio, sciere. Again, scio is the first person present tense. Sciere is the infinitive, meaning to, and then the verb. So it means to know. And that's what the word science means, knowledge. Scio, sciere, to know, to understand, to have knowledge. Put it together with con, it means to know together. Everybody should know this together, meaning it should be common sense.
Yes.
Conscience is what common sense really is, the knowledge of the difference between true, right, and wrong.
There we go.
And
okay.
Do we have common sense? Does the public really know the difference between real, right, and wrong? We don't have common sense. We don't have conscience. That's why we're enslaved, because there's a direct natural law correlation in the laws of the universe behaviorally between morality and freedom. This is what I refer to under the banner of natural law as the law of freedom. And natural law doesn't mean Darwinism. Natural law doesn't mean survival of the fittest. Natural law doesn't mean rule of the jungle, law of the jungle. It means the objective, universal, non-man-made, absolutely objective and definitive difference between right and wrong, and this is going to ultimately govern the behavioral consequences of human beings and beings that have the capacity to truly understand the difference between right and wrong. It doesn't apply to the animal kingdom. They're beings of instinct, largely alone. Okay, if you don't apply natural law to animals in the jungle, animals in the field, beasts of the field, we're not talking about instinctive behavioral creatures.
Gotcha.
We're talking about creatures with a higher complexified mind and brain that are capable of having language-based discussions about morality. So natural law applies to those kind of beings like human beings and or beings that are even more advanced than human beings. And it binds our behavior and brings us the consequence of the behavior that we choose through our free will and then put out into the world. And that's all you need to know, is that there's a direct one-to-one correlation between true morality and whether human beings are enslaved or free. This is the law of freedom. In the aggregate, as true morality is understood, and as it increases, and as human beings align their behavior to real morality, real objective morality, not religious morality, not subjective morals just grabbed out of thin air, real objective true morality, which is discernible and knowable, and we can truly understand the characteristics of moral behavior versus the characteristics of truly immoral behavior, as the morality of a whole group of people, a whole population of beings increases and they become truly moral people, they become truly free people. And as that population abandons objective morality and natural law, doesn't care about conscience, doesn't have the real knowledge of the definitive and objective difference between right and wrong behavior, and couldn't give a damn about that, All they worship is the dollar. All they worship is their paycheck. All they worship is whatever sports nonsensical crap sports teams they pay attention to, and they just live a selfish existence and they don't care about what is right and wrong, and they don't care about justice, and they don't care about freedom. They become more and more and more enslaved. That's the dynamic that is taking place every second of every day on this planet.
I agree.
It's the laws of creation operating in the largely unseen occult world. We can't look at something and see that operation. We have to discern the operation of those laws with our mind. And that's why the only solution is to change thinking. Thinking has to be changed. And you tell the average person in the freedom movement and the so-called truth movement, your thoughts must change. You must change your thinking. Your thinking is the problem. You don't have definitive right and wrong in hand. You don't have conscience in hand. You don't have the law of freedom in hand. You don't have natural law in hand. Your behavior isn't aligned to those things. You have just random nonsensical thoughts about what you think the solutions are. This is what the whole freedom, so-called freedom movement is. They're way off point. They're not even close to what the real answers are. Not even close. And it's disturbing. It's painful. I'm bitter about having done this for so many years and there not being any progress in it. And quite frankly, it's a massive disappointment. It's a bunch of people who should know better, and they're just a massively disappointing body of souls that hasn't really learned, hasn't set their ego to the side. And they want to say, these people actually want to say, I'm in ego. No. I'm sorry, but I'm going to take extreme umbrage with that assessment. I'm not the one in ego. I've come out of the state of satanic ego, and I've dedicated my life to learning the truth and teaching it to the people of this world, especially the people in the freedom movement. And what they have said in no uncertain terms, in the most massive amounts, overwhelmingly, and again, I'm not painting with an infinity wide brush, but I'm painting with a pretty broad brush, and it's true. They've largely, to a great extent, told me to go screw myself. They're not interested in this message. This message has gained hardly any traction anywhere. And the few people with larger platforms who have brought me on to espouse this ideology, it's gone nowhere. It has not interested their audiences in any kind of a larger way. And then they go right back to talking about politics and finance. It's sad. It's pathetic, it's disappointing, and it's embittering.
No, I get
and
it, dude.
That's where I find myself. I'm just being honest.
I get it. I really do. And I get it, man, because, you know, my mother, who I love with all my heart, I would die for my mom, you know. I begged her not to get the shot. Now she's having heart problems, clotting, and all this stuff. My brother, same thing. You know, my girlfriend, we're at a Super Bowl party at our house, and she wants to start lecturing everybody on Donald Trump, and I like, they just don't listen to me. But Mark, you've been in the game for a while, much longer than me. I just don't. I'm done saving anybody. I'm gonna save myself. And you know, they say 80% of the population is incapable of questioning authority. Yeah, man. I mean, these nerds and these NPCs are hurling towards us, towards a digital prison. My key is like, how can we set up parallel stuff and let you know, living out in the middle of nowhere on a farm sounds great too. But it also, I mean, we'll see what happens with that.
I don't think you could last all that long.
Dude, you don't understand how badly I do not want to be in LA.
I was about to say maybe the newer you, but like when I first met you, you couldn't. You had to be up and down, running and gunning. Maybe because the kids calmed you down, but back
and I'm
in your day,
also
You would have to find something else. You would have to find your outlet.
An outlet,
on the farm, though, like something that you. Could
No,
do
I mean,
in
what
the
I would
woods.
need, anyways, I don't want to get too. I would have to live close to a big city where I could go in and get that, and then go where there's one traffic light. Like, that's what I'm looking for. But
See, the issue is that we have too many people that are focused on external so-called solutions, where the actual solution lies in changing people's thought process. I tell people, and they have a difficult time hearing this. There's only one problem on this planet, and it's called religion. Because when you say the word religion, people are so mind controlled into the acceptance that all that means is Christianity, Judaism, Islam, Buddhism, Hinduism. That's all they think religion means. Religion is any system of thought that is contradictory to objective truth and nature. It is anything that goes against true objective reality and teaches you something that puts a virus of the mind inside your thought process that keeps snowballing out of control because you won't release attachment to it. And that's what the ego is. The ego is attachment to incorrect ideas. That's why I laugh when people talk about that I have an ego. I'm trying to help dissolve the ego in other people's minds. The ego is complete attachment to ideas that will get you nowhere, that will keep you spinning on the hamster wheel. Authority is a religion. The worship of money is a religion. Pure selfishness is a religion. Wanting to just be comfortable while the rest of the world suffers is a religion. There's an infinite amount of religions because there's an infinite amount of incorrect thinking that one could engage in. The real answer is we have to teach people how to clean up and correct their thought process and to truly use a vetted and knowably working truth discovery methodology, which is the real scientific method. I tell people understanding natural law is not a religious form of thought. It's a scientific form of thought. I'm a scientist. I'm a scientist who is studying laws that are embedded in the fabric of nature that are difficult to see with the eye or regular scientific measuring instruments. What they require to understand, to see and to understand them, to understand their workings, is a truly ordered mind, is true discernment in the operation of the mind, and to remove the ego, all of the wrong thought process that are just keep churning away in the mind and latching you to a prison of thought. This is what you have to get out of. And part of the answer to the whole thing is you have to become someone who wants to selflessly give of their time, energy, and effort to try to educate other people. And that is what some people are attempting to do. The problem is it's too few people doing that. Too few people dedicate their existence to truly trying to educate other people when it comes to not only what's going on this planet with the whole control system, but what the real answers are. So many people want to bring their religions into a so-called truth movement or freedom movement. That's why I say we don't have a truth movement or a freedom movement. We have an illusion of one. We have an appearance. We're saying, human beings are saying they want freedom. They're saying they want truth. They really don't want anything to do with true freedom and truth because it implies total responsibility. It implies actually sacrifice of what one wants for their selfish interests and what they want to accomplish in life. If I just left my whole life to my selfish interests, after I learned who was really running the world in the satanic hierarchy operating worldwide, and I became awake to that, what I would have done if I just wanted to dedicate my life to myself instead of truly dedicating my life to the truth and to morality and to educating other people in morality, what I would have done is say, It's not my responsibility to say anything about what I've just learned, about what I was involved in. And I'm going to go to the bowling alley and I'm going to practice and get better and better and better because I was a damn awesome bowler at one point where I probably could have
Bro,
competed
I
professionally.
am in,
And I would have just
dog.
sat in a bowling alley drinking beers until I got really good, and I probably would have went on the world circuit and won a whole lot of money. And that would have been Mark Passio's life.
Dude, that would have been a
Instead,
great
I
life.
said, no, I'm going to expose this. I'm going to talk about this. I'm going to tell people what I've seen. I'm going to tell people what I know. And I'm going to explain natural law and objective morality to them so that they can understand the real difference between right and wrong. And this whole movement, they've gone backwards. They haven't made any forward progress. They've dug a hole for themselves. They're further away from the truth than they were right after 9/11 happened. I wish we could go back to a big watershed event like 9/11 and something way worse than it, and maybe enough death and suffering will trigger people out of their nonsensical BS religious ideologies. That's what we need. I feel like we need unimaginable human suffering. It's the only thing that's going to take people out of their entrenched ego.
There
at
is
this
something
point.
to that. There is something to that it's got to get way worse, especially in America. America, I really do believe that people don't think anything really bad will happen here and that they can kind of live whatever life they want to, and that war and death and destruction is a show on television. That's why I believe